Hello and welcome to Business on Breakfast Show. We'll be talking about something pretty important. It's the Russia-Ukraine conflict, where Nigeria may be at the receiving end of some of the worst ripple effects of the ongoing escalation between Russia and Ukraine. Since last Thursday's invasion, crude oil prices spiraled above $100 per barrel, the first time since 2014, and this soaring oil price should ordinarily be a blessing and good news for the country as an oil-producing entity. But experts are worried that rather than benefiting optimally from the surging crude oil prices, the inherent distortion in the Nigerian economy may worsen and topple the fragile economic condition. Well, let's discuss this now. I have joining me in the studio former chairman, Agric Agro-Allied Group, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, African farmer. Mogachi, it's good to have you join us on the show. It's good to see you after a long time. So this conflict is affecting us in more ways than one. On one end, there's the fuel scarcity that we're already seeing, even though we already had this before the invasion. Some people are saying it could get worse already. On the other end is food insecurity that we might be facing because of wheat and the implication on bread prices. So first off, apart from the damage it has caused on education and health, you know, what are the dangers that we face as a country and as a continent?
Okay, so currently everybody's talking about oil, which is crucial because it affects our daily living. At the same time, we're having a potential or clear and present potential is oil and food. How does it affect food? It affects food with the fertilizers we use. It affects most of us consume bread, which is wheat, which comes from Russia. So a lot of our raw materials to the multinationals come from Russia. So a distortion in that supply chain puts a heavy pressure on the Nigerian people. And don't forget, the prices has gone on 30, 40, 50%, in some places almost 100%. So bottom line is that it's not looking good for Nigeria. So we can earn more with oil from oil, but daily living will really go high, especially without us having quite a lot of reserves.
Already we've seen there are reports that Russia and Ukraine supply the world's about 30% of the world's wheat production. And then you see that what alternative can we explore to minimize this impact? Because already between 2020 and 2021, we saw that like 80% increase on bread prices.
Yes.
What alternatives can we really explore?
Well, I always say out of every adversity comes a greater or equal opportunity, provided we can find it. And that's a quote from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. Basically, we can grow some type of wheat. And we've been growing some. I used to be a wheat producer in Jigawa. And I know the CBN imported some varieties of wheat. And just this year, the Ministry of Agriculture also released some varieties of wheat. We need to find varieties of wheat and scale it that we can use locally. The taste may be different, just like rice. We're all consuming, most of us are consuming local rice. If we like it is another point of discussion.
Because we're used to the format.
But also we've now worked on quite a lot of things when it comes to customer taste and focusing on customers. So we can make do with a lot of wheat that we have. At a certain stage in the development of wheat, it needs some coolness, which that's why you find it mostly in the north. But I know AFDB has done quite a lot in Sudan with wheat development, so it's doable, and we should leverage this current challenge to be able to produce and scale. But you know what happens most times is immediately after the pressure goes down, we forget again. But this is not the war is at its early stage, and it's still not looking good because the media is, most of the social media platforms, belong to the U.S. They are U.S. citizens, and so they're taking out anything that Russia is putting out. So bottom line, Ukraine is winning the media war, which is not good for Russia.
So we're not even getting narrative.
Yeah, we're not getting their narrative. So bottom line is that we don't know the extent. Like this morning, I read on some online news of the heavy, artillery moving into Ukraine. So we don't know what will happen, but it's not looking good. So we need to quickly in-house look at what can we begin to do so this won't happen again. But if this thing lasts more than another 15 days, there will be more pressure in the country.
These two countries are pretty central to the world economy, especially Ukraine is the second largest in Europe. And considering what they produce as, sovereign states, does this have a rippling effect, of course, on food security in the world? Yes,
it does. One, you see, the food security is a bit broad now, and I'll take it from the U.S. perspective and also the rest of the world. So prior to now, many people, especially Africans, have not paid attention to the fact that urea is already very expensive in the United States.
Some persons may be interested.
Okay, so urea is a fertilizer. It's mostly the white fertilizer. So if you Google it, it's a white fertilizer responsible for the crops when it is about to bring out the fruits that we will harvest. Now, in October, November last year, Russia stopped exporting urea to the U.S. China is also moves towards Russia, and also China also stopped. So both are claiming that there's a potential challenge in production, so they are holding on. So Russia and China stopped exporting that fertilizer to U.S. The U.S. farmers cannot farm without urea. U.S. is the largest producer of maize, which is a major input for many industries globally. They are the largest exporters. U.S. also, when it comes to China, so China and Russia are not exporting what the farmers need. When it comes to soybean also, U.S. is the largest producer, and those are major export products. So the U.S. government is mostly centered around creating markets for their states. That's why it's United States of America. What unites them is the agriculture. So now that the farmers currently are already, under a lot of agitation that they will not be able to be successful this year, the U.S. government is also very careful. Beyond the oil, beyond the world is the food. And, elections is coming. The Republicans are taking advantage of this. Yeah. Democrats are also trying to wiggle out of it. So bottom line is that it's not looking good. There's a food politics to Ukraine and Ukraine and Russia challenge conflict also.
And so we see that, of course, this could also possibly lead to a food war.
Definitely.
How does this already affect Africa and Nigeria? Because, we may not be centered on taking authority in the world or taking powers for ourselves. What we're centered on about is what do we eat?
Yeah.
Which is central.
So one of the challenges of this war is everybody is scared that what if Russia releases a nuclear weapon? Already they used a bomb that was not supposed to be used according to UN agreements. So if they use it, because we're heavily import dependent, we import almost everything.
Nigeria.
Yeah, we import to toothpicks, we import everything. So most of the countries that also export would also want to take care of their people. So if they don't get the importation they require, what happens? So everybody will be on the defensive and nobody wants to push out again. So right now, we're not pushing anything. We're already, we have quite a lot of challenges with most of our grains, with rains and coal. So we have insurgency work happening here also. So bottom line is that it's not good for us. From a majority of the African states, imports mostly from Europe. Don't forget the colonization still exists.
Yeah.
The Francophone depends on France for almost everything also.
Well, former chairman at Greek Agro-Allied Group, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, African farmer Mogaji, thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.